The government of Uganda has failed to get a contractor for 300 million repairs on Uganda property in Denmark. That and more is what we have for you in the Business News Hour at this moment. And of course, kicking it off in style to keep you up to speed with the latest business stories from the country and across the globe. Now let's kickstart off from the Honorable Minister of State for Planning, Amos Lugolobi, who has committed himself to promoting industrialization ahead of his appointment as a minister. This at the handling over of leadership of African peer review mechanism from Honorable David Bahati to Honorable Amos Lugolobi administration. Honorable David Bahati, the outgoing Minister of State for Planning, called on national leaders to focus on implementations that take sustainable development forward. Pedersen Mombere reports.
Honorable David Bahati, former Member of State for Finance, Planning, Economic Development, the NPA Board Management and the APRMNDC recognizes Your Excellency's commitment and dedicated services offered to the NPA as a line minister in charge of planning as well as economic development.
Congratulations. Please a hand clap again. Congratulations.
And as a member of the NGC, and that relationship is going to continue. We want to deliver industries in Uganda. And I've already committed myself to work with him very closely to deliver this industrialization. Today we have been discussing one of the programs in NDP, agro-industrialization, and looking at the interventions that NPA proposed vis-a-vis resource availability, and to see how we can provide more resources to ensure that we see more agriculture and we see more industries in agriculture. So, Honorable Bahati, we want to continue working closely with you in all these endeavors, because now your mission is to deliver industries, and there is no country that can develop without industries. Just tell me one, that it has a resilient state level of development without industry. So you really need the industry, especially for poor countries that are struggling to get a
point. I have felt this joy, and if there is anyone in the room who thought this was just for the sake of recognizing, you are very disappointed. I really take it seriously. But also it is something that we need to embrace. Success, if somebody makes a contribution, I think it's something that this culture of embracing success should be embraced. Sometimes we want to fight success. Somebody makes a contribution and you want to water it down by doing something. So to me, I see this one as a very important step in our country of building culture of embracing success. And where somebody is weak, lifting them up. So I'm very, very happy about this. So back to the APRM. This to me is a very important tool that can propel the continent from poverty to prosperity. And I think all of us should have this view when we are facilitating our leaders, heads of state, to talk about these issues. At the back of our mind is that we are focusing on moving from poverty to prosperity, and this mechanism is such a mechanism that we can use to achieve that. And I also want to say that we can use it to really help our leaders fight the things that are taking us back. When we hear the coups that are happening, is something of the past that should not happen on the continent. Can we use, Professor Maroka, use this mechanism to really condemn the coups on the continent and help our leaders discuss issues that lead to some of these backward methods of acquiring power and governing of of our continent. There are so many achievements that you have mentioned. I didn't know that I had made that contribution. But to me, the outstanding contribution I thought about this when I was there was when we convinced His Excellency the President in Nairobi. Was it 2015 or 2016? To convince his peers, heads of state,
All right, now that is Honorable David Bahati, who is the outgoing Minister of State for Planning, as he actually called on national leaders to focus on implementation that takes sustainable development forward. And if you look at the other situation, he revealed this at the handing over of African peer review mechanism from Honorable. This was during the time when the Honorable Minister, Right Honorable Minister on State for Planning, Amos Lugolobi, committed himself to promoting industrialization ahead of his appointment as minister. Because now we're looking at a situation where we are actually looking at a situation where most probably most Ugandans are asking themselves, how can we boost our economy? And look at the sectors now that are actually available. We've always been focusing on agriculture, but in the same way, we now have industry and industries being set up here in one way or the other as a way of actually boosting our trade sector in Uganda, also focusing more on the industrialization aspect of it. Now, this is following Honorable Minister of State for Planning, Amos Lugolobi, being appointed as the Minister of State for Planning. Now, he revealed this at the handing over of leadership of the African peer review mechanism from Honorable David Bahati to Honorable Amos Lugolobi's administration as the new State Minister for Planning in Uganda. And we do hope pretty much that by the end of the financial year, the industries that are coming up, the investors that are coming up, are not only going to help boost, let's say, the Buy Uganda, Build Uganda policy, but also help by giving out employment opportunities to the Ugandans and providing different employment opportunities for the Ugandan youth, more so because they make up the highest percentage of the population in Uganda. Okay, let's head to the next one. As the government has failed to get a contractor for 300 million Ugandan shillings repairs on Uganda property in Denmark. Now, officials at the Uganda Embassy in Denmark were forced to return 190 million as part of the 300 million released to undertake repairs at one of Uganda's properties in Denmark after the construction companies declined to sign contract with Uganda. Now, the details were disclosed in the report of the Auditor General following an audit into the financial statements of the Embassy of the Republic of Uganda in Denmark. That is in the city of Copenhagen last year. That was for the year ended June 2020. But the report was only tabled last week before Parliament. More of the details.
The Public Service Standing Orders 2010 provides that there shall be one official residence either owned or rented by the government in each country to which a mission is accredited and which shall be occupied by the head of mission. Ugandan government owns an official residence for the head of mission at Copenhagen Embassy located in Denmark. Officials at Uganda's embassy in Denmark were forced to return 190 million as part of the 300 million released to undertake repairs at one of the Uganda's properties in Denmark after the construction companies declined to sign a contract with Uganda. The details were disclosed in the report of the Auditor General following an audit into the financial statement of the Embassy of the Republic of Uganda in Copenhagen, Denmark, for the year ended June 2020. But the report was on the table last week before the Parliament of Uganda. However, in 2020, the official residence was occupied by administrative attaché instead of the head of mission, who opted to rent an apartment located in Copenhagen at a cost of 266,991,068. Alex Hope Mukubwa, The former accounting officer at the Ugandan embassy in Denmark, in an interview with an auditors, explained that the head of mission opted to reside in the rented apartment because the official residence was in a bad state and would therefore not provide a good image for the embassy and the government. A decision was made to allow the administration to stay in the embassy official residence, thereby saving an annual rent 121,680,000. During this time, the embassy embarks on plans to refurbish the official residence at 300 billion, which was released by the Minister of Finance, planning through a supplementary budget for the same purpose.
All right, now, a number of Ugandans have welcomed the development on social media, if you see that. But look at the situation here that is actually happening with the officials of the Uganda's embassy in Denmark. Were forced to return 190 million Ugandan shillings as part of the 300 million Ugandan shillings released to undertake repairs at one of Uganda's properties based in Denmark. That is in the capital of Copenhagen. And clearly you see that when the government has actually failed to get the 300 million worth of contract, or to actually get these particular contractors. Now look at and say the Public Service Standing Orders in 2020 provides that there shall be one official residence either owned or rented by the government in each country to which a mission is accredited. So that is greatly if you look at the embassy of Uganda to Denmark. Now, which shall be occupied by the head of the mission, who is most probably an ambassador. And because we always know that when the delegates in the different countries are already set there, they are referred to as the ambassadors, or they are like the president, having the same power as the president, but on a national duty in a different country. And if you look at this, this shall be occupied by the head of the mission, as Uganda government owns an official residence of the head of mission at Copenhagen Embassy, located at Sovejivi 15-2900 Hellerap in Denmark. Now, officials at Uganda's embassy in Denmark were forced to return 190 million Ugandan shillings as part of the 300 million Ugandan shillings released to undertake repairs at one of Uganda's properties in Denmark after the construction companies declined to sign contracts with Uganda to extend in terms of the repairs. But surprisingly, now we all have issues with our Ugandan officials and the policymakers on how they actually swindle or mismanage the funds that are being allocated by the government. So in the same situation, you could see what has been happening here, as most probably the officials were forced to return 190 million out of the 300 million that had been released to undertake repairs in the embassy of Denmark, that is in Copenhagen. But you would see, out of the 300 million, the contractors did not sign anything. So they were not willing to continue with the repairs. But surprisingly, when you look at the audit that was done, 190 million was mishandled by the officials who had been in the contract, who had actually been attached to the same issue of signing this contract to see that the repairs are done on the embassy of Denmark. Now let's look at this. Now the details disclosed in the report of the Auditor General following an audit into the financial statements of the Embassy of the Republic of Uganda, that is in Copenhagen in Denmark, that ended in the financial year 2019-2020, ended June 30th. But the report was only tabled last week before Parliament. Now, however, in 2020, the official residence was occupied by the administrative attaché instead of the head of mission, who opted to rent an apartment located HC Adenson's Belved 33 in Copenhagen at a cost of 266,991,068 shillings. Now, Alex Hope Mokuba, the former accounting officer at the Uganda Embassy in Denmark, in an interview with the auditors, explained that the head of mission opted to reside in the rented apartment. Now, a decision was made to allow the administrative attaché to stay in the embassy official residence, thereby saving an annual rent of 121 million 608,000 Ugandan shillings. Now, during this time, the embassy embarks on plans to refurbish the official residence, and 300 billion Ugandan shillings was released by the Minister of Finance, planning through a supplementary budget for that purpose. All right, now let's move on. The government scraps issuance of good conduct certificates for Ugandans seeking jobs abroad. That is the government of Uganda, which has announced that Ugandans seeking jobs abroad will no longer need to obtain certificates of good conduct, except for those going to do security-related jobs abroad. More of this report.
The government of Uganda has announced that Ugandans seeking jobs abroad will no longer need to obtain certificates of good conduct except those going to do security-related jobs. In a letter dated October 8, 2021 from the Gender Minister Betty Amongi, addressed to the Internal Affairs Major General Kahindo Tafire, the cabinet scrapped off the requirements for these certificates except those who are seeking to work in security. This will take effect today, October 13th, 2021. The development comes at a time when Ugandans seeking employment abroad are being tossed back to obtain a letter of good conduct from the Interpol, which, according to some officials, makes the process too expensive and complicated. A number of Ugandans have welcomed the development via social media. The Ugandan Association of External Recruitment Agencies also welcomed the move, saying that these Interpol letters made their work so difficult since their clients had to wait for too long to get these letters.
In a letter dated October 8, 2021 from Gender Minister Betty Amongi, addressed to the Internal Affairs Major General Kahinda Otafire, the cabinet scrapped off requirements for these certificates except for those who are actually going to do security-related jobs as security guards. Certificates of good conduct that have always been applied for and given out to Ugandans who have been traveling abroad. Now, this time around, they will only be available for those who are going to do security-related jobs, or who will be security guards abroad. All right, now let's head to the international scene, and kicking it off from China, as the price of coal used in China power plants has surged to a new record high as another of the country's key mining regions is hit by flooding. Heavy rains hit Shaanxi in recent days as the country's biggest coal-producing province after record floods struck the mining region of Henan in July. More of the details. Thermal coal on the Zhengzhou Commodity Exchange rose by over 10% on Tuesday. The floods further complicate China's efforts to increase fuel supplies to ease its deepening energy crisis. Shaanxi province, which produced around a third of China's coal supplies this year, was forced to temporarily shut dozens of mines due to flooding, although some sites are now slowly resuming operations. At least 15 people have died during the severe flooding that has affected more than 1.76 million people in the province, local officials said on Tuesday. Torrential rain last week led to houses collapsing and triggered landslides across more than 70 districts and cities in the northern province. Even before the flooding, China was already facing an energy shortage which has caused power cuts in large parts of the country. In recent weeks, energy firms have been forced to limit electricity supplies to millions of homes and businesses. On Friday, Beijing reportedly ordered China's coal mines to boost output. The move was the latest attempt by authorities to increase coal supplies after prices hit record highs and electricity shortages forced energy firms to ration power. Since last month, a series of power cuts has forced factories to cut back production or stop operations completely. Manufacturing hubs in the northeast of China have been hit particularly hard. The latest rise in the price of thermal coal prices comes on top of a 12% jump on Monday. Energy prices have been rising across the world as the global economy starts to emerge from the pandemic. On Monday, the cost of Brent crude hit its highest level since October 2018, while U.S. traded oil touched a fresh 7-year. Since last month, a series of power cuts has forced factories to cut back production or stop operations completely as manufacturing hubs in the northeast of China have been hit particularly hard. And the latest rise in the price of thermal coal prices comes on top of a 12% jump on Monday, as energy prices have been rising across the world as the global economy starts to emerge from the pandemic. As China's, if you look at the situation that is actually leading to the price of coal using China's power plants surging to a new record high as another of the country's key mining regions is hit hard by flooding. Still with the business news, Ghana Customs says it's set to increase revenue to 17 billion Ghanaian cedi. Now, the retired Colonel Kwadwo Damoah, Commissioner, Customs Division, Ghana Revenue Authority, has said the division is upbeat and poised to increase its revenue targets from 10.9 billion Ghanaian cedi in 2020 to 17 billion Ghanaian cedi for 2021. More of the details. Retired Colonel Kwadwo Damoah said in 2020 the Customs Division exceeded its 10.9 billion Ghanaian cedi target and ranked in over 12 billion Ghanaian cedi in excess of 1.6 billion Ghanaian cedi. According to him, 2021 Customs was expected to collect close to about 7 billion Ghanaian cedi. Now, even though they were lagging behind around 7%, they were growing beyond 30% against last year's performance. Colonel Damoah, who is addressing the media at the Tema port during a working visit, said actually it was a revised target, and because COVID-19 came in with various restrictions in place, realistically it wasn't going to be possible to achieve the original target. According to the commissioner, Tema alone collected around 80% of the total customs collection throughout the country, and said if the sector was performing well, customs would suddenly perform remarkably with a rise in revenue collection. He added between January and September 2021, it was behind about 5.8% to over 580 million Ghanaian cedi in real figures, but was quick to state that measures have been put in place to reach the projected target at the close of the year. Colonel Damoah noted that with officers and the leadership always ready for the task ahead, coupled with efficiency, effectiveness, vigilance and professionalism, the division was likely to attain its targets. Therefore, appealed to the officers to work even harder and not relent on their efforts. Assistant Commissioner Julius Awea Katumu, Tema Sector Commander, Customs Division of GRA, commended the officers at the ports for their dedication and diligence to duty and appealed to them to renew their commitment in order to help achieve the targets set out by government in terms of revenue collection. The visit afforded Colonel Damoah the opportunity to interact with customs officials, Golden Jubilee Terminal, Meridian Port Service Terminal, free to understand at first hand their operational challenges. Now, the Assistant Commissioner, Julius Awea Katumu, the Tema Sector Commander, Customs Division of the Ghana Revenue Authority, commended that the officers at the ports of their dedication and delegates to duty and appealed to them to renew their commitment in order to help achieve the target set by the government in terms of revenue collection. That is, according to the Ghana Customs, they say they are set to increase revenue to 17 billion Ghanaian cedi in the upcoming financial year. Okay, as we are ending our news hour, let's head to Kenya as we check this out. Kenyan investors have been offered free initial public offer shares by MTN Uganda. Now, the investors have been offered free shares for motivation to buy stock in Telkom's firm MTN Uganda that opens its 27.6 billion initial public offer. South Africa's MTN Group is selling 4.47 billion shares in its Ugandan subsidiary at a price equivalent to 6.2 apiece to boost chances of the offer being successful, which will require applications for purchase of at least 1.1 billion shares. Now, MTN is offering prospective investors free shares of between 5 and 10 units for every 100 units that has been allocated. Now, this actually represents an effective discount of 5 to 10% of the purchase price, assuming an investor gets his full allocation and incentives of the shares. There are no allocation quotas, but Ugandan investors will be given priority in case of subscription, offering Kenyans unlimited room to snap their available stocks. The Uganda Communications Commission, UCC, in 2019 directed all foreign-owned telecoms to reserve at least 20% of shares to locals and East Africans by the end of 2021 in a deal meant to spur local ownership of the telecoms industry across the land of Uganda and giving out different integrations as well as partnership deals with the East African firms. MTN Uganda is currently owned by MTN Group, which has 96.01%, and businessman Charles Mbire with 3.98% of the shares. The IPO is open to Ugandan investors as well as citizens of other East African community member states, including Kenya, as foreign investors can also participate in the same offer. Ugandan investors have, however, been given the top priority in the share sale, as institutional investors in Uganda and other East African countries will have to invest larger amounts to get free shares. To get 5 free shares for every 100 units allocated, as the professional investors must apply for stock with a 109.3 million shillings to qualify for 10 free shares for every 100 units allocated. The investors will need to apply for stock worth a minimum of 5.5 billion shillings. The IPO will potentially be Uganda's biggest ever and a major boost to its stock market, as a small bourse with 40,000 investors trading just 17 stocks. As according to Ugandan government, said the listing of telecoms on the local bourse as one of its license renewal conditions to allow the local ownership of bigger companies with few large shareholders. Now, the listing will make MTN Uganda the second publicly traded telecom in East Africa after Safaricom's IPO on the Nairobi Security Exchange in 2008. All right, now MTN Uganda joins suit as well. That brings us to the end of our news hour. Coming up, I have Andrew Barija. We head into the topical discussions. This is Smart Mates Business.